that searing sensation in your thighs as you sprint the last 50 meters. It feels like a punishment, a physical stop sign erected by your own biology. For nearly a century, we blamed a single culprit: lactic acid, a toxic waste product gumming up the works. This idea comes from Otto Meyerhoff's Nobel Prize-winning experiments in the 1920s using disembodied frog legs stimulated with electricity in a jar with no oxygen supply. In this highly unnatural state, lactic acid accumulated. The conclusion seemed obvious. But your body is not a dead frog leg in a jar. And what's actually in your muscle isn't lactate acid, it's lactate. The difference is one tiny proton, a hydrogen ion. And that single particle changes the entire story. To understand lactate, you have to look at how a cell makes energy in a hurry. The process is called glycolysis. It's an ancient 10-step chemical reaction that shatters a glucose molecule for a quick burst of fuel. It happens in the cytoplasm, outside the cell's main power plants, the mitochondria. The final product of this 10-step dance is a molecule called pyruvate. Now, pyruvate is at a crossroads. If there's time and oxygen, it gets pulled into the mitochondria for a long, slow, and incredibly efficient energy release. But during a sprint, there is no time. This is where our enzyme, lactate dehydrogenase, steps in. It grabs the pyruvate and chemically transforms it into lactate. This isn't a wasteful act. It's a clever hack that regenerates another molecule, NAD+, which is essential for glycolysis to continue. It's a short-term loan to keep the lights on. So, if lactate isn't the villain, what causes that signature burn? Remember that proton that separates lactic acid from lactate? During high-intensity glycolysis, these protons are generated faster than the cell can clear them. They accumulate, and the pH inside your muscle cell begins to drop. It becomes more acidic. This acidity is the burn. It's a chemical alarm bell. This acidic environment directly interferes with the machinery of muscle contraction. For instance, it reduces how well calcium ions can bind to a protein called troponin, which is the trigger for a muscle fiber to contract. It also throttles a key regulatory enzyme in the glycolysis pathway itself, phosphofructokinase, creating a negative feedback loop. The burn isn't damage, it's information, a signal that the metabolic environment is becoming unstable. The burn is a sensation, but it isn't what physically stops you. True muscular fatigue is more complex. One of the main culprits is now thought to be inorganic phosphate, or PI. This is the molecule left over when your cell's energy currency, ATP, is spent. As you work harder, PI levels skyrocket. High concentrations of PI directly interfere with the myosin heads, the tiny molecular motors that pull on actin filaments to contract your muscle. It gums up the power stroke. At the same time, every muscle contraction causes potassium ions to leak out of the cell. This buildup of potassium on the outside disrupts the electrical charge across the cell membrane, making it harder for the nerve signal to trigger a contraction. The signal from your brain essentially gets garbled before it can do its job. Far from being a waste product, lactate is a valuable fuel. This is the core of the lactate shuttle theory, developed by physiologist George Brooks. Lactate produced in your fast-twitch muscle fibers, the ones built for power, doesn't just sit there. It's shuttled through the bloodstream to other tissues. Your slow-twitch endurance fibers, and especially your heart, are exceptionally good at consuming it. These cells take up lactate, use that same lactate dehydrogenase enzyme to convert it back to pyruvate, and then burn it aerobically in their mitochondria for clean, sustainable energy. During intense exercise, your heart can derive more than half its energy from lactate. Even your brain uses it. Lactate is a high-speed courier, moving energy from where it's produced quickly to where it can be used efficiently. But what if the ultimate limit isn't in your muscle at all? The central governor model, proposed by Tim Noakes, suggests the brain is the true ceiling on your performance. Your brain constantly monitors a flood of sensory data: the pH in your muscles, core body temperature, oxygen levels, the buildup of potassium. Lactate levels are a key part of this data stream. When these signals, in combination, suggest a risk of system damage, of pushing the organism to a point of no return, the brain intervenes. It doesn't ask for permission. It begins to reduce the number of motor units it recruits in your muscles. This manifests as that overwhelming feeling of effort. You feel you cannot go on because a subconscious safety protocol has been engaged. So, the enzyme that makes your muscles burn is also sending a critical status report to headquarters.
Monotony has grown fast. Nearly 2,700 people have watched in the last few weeks, yet less than 0.03% are subscribed. It would mean a lot if you joined by hitting subscribe. And again, thanks for watching.